I don't know. Do you want some coffee? Yeah, you like coffee? Yeah. Okay, just, we don't want you to have too much caffeine. No. Oh, sorry. Welcome to Landria Onkka on YouTube, here to help you break through fears and live an awesome life. By popular demand, Hacker T is back. Why is his name Hacker T? Because that's what's on his tag. I bought him at a charity event. Hacker T, if you don't already know, is the ego, right? And the ego is not our enemy. The ego is just part of the collective of the human species that has gotten a little out of control. Yeah, I know. Yes, you have. Yes, you have. All right, we'll talk about it later. Anyway, so Hacker T is absolutely our friend, right? If we're in control and we recognize Hacker T for what he is. All right, let's get your little. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know. So when you think of Hacker T, or your ego, I should say, as something that just is always there trying to protect you, right? Like a little dog bites. Ah, oh, yes, he bites sometimes. To protect you. It's like the world is a nasty place. So Hacker T has to protect you. Yeah, that's really what the ego is doing. It's a little animal that is saying that everybody is out to get you, that you need to get more, and that you don't have enough, and that the material world will make you happy, so it tries to get everything, right? It's trying to get everything it can at the expense of others. It sees the world as a threat. What's that? That's fear. This is why my whole channel is Breakthrough Fear. That's why my first e-course, foundational e-course, is Breakthrough Fear. Oops, sorry, I put my finger in your eye. Okay, coffee break. Really? Okay, so let's talk about the ego today, because the ego is absolutely the lowest frequency. It's the third frequency, energy field, I call it. So the first energy field is up here. It's your higher self. You can't see it. And so the first energy field is your higher self, of which you come from. It's pure, it's you up there going, wow, no big deal, piece of cake, yeah, I'll come down to planet Earth and straighten things out. And then you come down into the second energy field. You are now in a body. Yes, this is your body. You don't really have one, but I do, which means that I'm in a lower frequency, and the lower frequency is absolutely taking you into this material world that you don't understand. You don't know why you're here. It doesn't feel right, and you forget who you are. So you forget the first energy field. Right. And so then the third energy field gets created, or you start to go into it more, and that's the ego. Yes, that's you. And that is the lower energy field that starts to really get into the dense material world of the second energy field, saying, okay, I am a body, oh, and there's material world, and this is what's real. And so then the ego kicks in and then starts to protect you and says, okay, this is real, this is who I am. Even though you're battling it and saying, this doesn't feel right, but I know that if I have the car, the relationship, or the house, everything seems to feel better. So then you start to do that more and more and more, and the ego says, I need that. And then everything else and everyone is separate, because you start to get attached to the material world, and you think that these separate things are making me happy, and that I am a separate entity, and that the separate entity has to battle to get the things to feel good, because that's all it's connecting to. I know, it's tiring, it's exhausting, isn't it? So the ego, therefore, if you can think of the ego as something that has just been created through the centuries, of which we are here to break through. It's full of fear, it's full of threats, it sees the future as a potential disaster every time. It's addicted to conspiracy theories. Yes, it is. I know when, yeah, at night you're on that channel. Yeah, conspiracy theories. Oh, the world is going to, you know what, in a handbasket, to hell in a handbasket, I swore. Sorry. And so, what is that? That's the addiction of the ego saying, it's almost an addiction saying, what's bad going to happen? Oh, it's like, you, right? It's like a train wreck. And so you find yourself gravitating toward that more and more because you're actually coming from the ego, and that's the, you know, let's build a protective shelter for me from everybody else so I can survive. For what? You know, right? If we're in that kind of a place, let's let it all go. We didn't do our job. So our job is to work with the ego. So it's probably never going to go away. Right? I'm not trying to get rid of you. You're just going to sit here. Right? Yeah, we're friends. You're just going to sit here and behave. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Okay, so take a break. So the ego takes a break then because you recognize it for what it is. It's just trying to protect you. And it's harmless if it's not in control. If it's in control, then, you know, this happens. It's always talking. And we're not going to do that. No, we're not. So, by the way, I have not lost my mind. Just having a little fun. But if you can think of the ego this way, as not something ugly that you battle, but something very cute that is really trying to protect you because, again, it doesn't know that there's anything but this material world. And so it's just doing its job. It's been trained. You're well trained, aren't you? Yeah. So now I've trained my ego, Hacker T, to behave. Sit. Stay. Sleep. Sleep. Okay. So this is what happens when you get control of your ego. You absolutely do not see it as a threat, or it is never threatened anymore. It is just a part of you, an energetic field of you that is disconnected with its spiritual energy, and it is as far away from that as possible. How do you know your ego's in play? Do you see anybody as an individual threat to you? Do you see somebody that irritates you and you believe they shouldn't be doing certain things or thinking certain things or acting a certain way? Yeah, it's the ego. Do you get irritated with other people and you just don't see the beauty in them? Do you battle for material things and you think that there is lack in this world? All the ego. All the ego, and none of it's true. It's not. So, abundance is limitless here on this planet. The resources are limitless if we change the way that we are thinking and feeling and living. If we understand that the ego is not to be battled, but is something that just exists within our human species, and that we simply have to deal and work with it and recognize when it shows up, and that it is, aw, it's so sweet. See, the ego is not a horrible thing. It's when we battle it. I will never battle you. No, we're friends now. Why? I recognize it, and I realize if there's any negative thought, that's the ego believing that that's a separate person out there that somehow should be different. Yeah, so we are training our ego to take that back seat and just relax. And then when the ego shows up, then we have a little talk and say, oh, there it is again. It showed up. It's just feeling threatened on some way, that the world should be different according to me, my ego, that third energy field. And then you get back in alignment and you tell yourself, I no longer am my ego. I'm not going to be operating from that energetic field of which is a part of me. What? Don't... So he gets so distracted. And so, what are you going to do with it? You're not going to get rid of it. It will eventually dissolve, but it's probably never going to go away as long as you're on this planet. Because that's where, I think we're ways off of that, but we can live fourth and fifth dimensional lives with the ego and understand that it is part of the human history and energy field. And when we recognize it and stop reacting against it or letting it control us, then everybody's happy. And you can be friends with it. And this is where battles ensue, is when you're battling, that other voice in the head is the ego, telling you the worst case scenario because it's trained to see everything as a threat. It's trained to see everything as negative. It's trained to see everything as a potential loss for you. That's all it is. So when you battle with it, you're battling with the lower frequency that of which you're not, and you're not connecting your higher one and taking control and saying, none of that's true, because what I know you're trying to protect me, but the truth is, I, the higher frequency, control the outcome of everything. I, the higher frequency, control the outcome of everything. And that any bad feelings, negative feelings that I have are me believing what the ego says. And Hacker T means no harm, right? You and I are friends. So what are you going to do? Recognize it. And what we're not doing most of the time is listening to ourselves. And so many times in the comments I see somebody say, oh, I'm enlightened, and then the second thing they say is that so-and-so was bothering me, or I have a jerk for a possibly way. You can say all those things, but if the first part is that you're awakened, then you got some work to do. And we don't recognize that the second part of those sentences sometimes are us going back to the ego and believing all those statements. So listen to yourself. And when a thought comes in, and ask yourself, if you have criticized one person, you've done it to yourself. Yes, that's how it works. It is. You've done it to yourself because you're that same energy field. You share it. So that negative thought is coming right back to you immediately. It's out there and wandering around. It is you. Boom, you're going down. Yes, you're going down. You can't see it. So what are you doing with those thoughts? Are you going into the protective space of this is how things should be and this is how the world should act? That's separatism, and that doesn't truly exist except for in your head, and that's the ego, and it's a lower frequency. So listen to your words and pay attention to your thoughts, because as soon as a negative thought about somebody, and I'm not thinking it's a negative thought at the time. We are programmed, man. We still have that stuff showing up. It shows up all the time. Somebody might walk by and you have an opinion of them that may not be very nice. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, here's a jerk. It could be like, oh, that's a scary person or whatever. And so just catch yourself and say, wow, that was a judgment. There's another light being experiencing something, and they could be awakened. That person could be totally awakened, and that is your, just say, test. We're being tested all the time. So listen to yourself, listen to the thoughts, catch the thoughts. Is that an ego-based third energy field thought? Probably, yeah. Watch what you're writing down and what you're dealing with. What are you battling with? The past and all this stuff. That's the ego wanting things to be different. Not seeing the value in anything. There's no higher value in anything. It's just the material world didn't work out the way I wanted it to, and I want to change it, and I'm going to sit here and battle it. So the ego is not some evil, negative thing you need to get rid of. It's a protection system that was created through the centuries that humans believed was real and went lower and lower and lower. And pretty soon, we thought that's who we were. You can come up now. Make friends with your ego. Recognize it. Have fun with it. And then just know that it is a cute little protection system that has no power, because your first energy field, that higher self of yours, has control over everything. Everything. Don't forget, you came here to play a role. Well, I don't want to look this way, or I don't want to be this. You chose this role. Don't forget that. You don't start switching roles here right now. This is your role. This is who you are. This is the role that you're playing. Follow through with it. Okay? And in wanting to change certain things and the way you look and all this stuff, you guys writing about how do I look different, that's the ego. Believing that it's not okay, it's not good enough, that it has to look a certain way or, you know, be a certain type of person to be acceptable because you don't love yourself. So deal with that. Ask yourself why you would even think something like that. You're beautiful. Exactly in the role that you chose. So make friends with your ego. You're in control. It isn't. He's giving me the stink eye. All right, and Hacker T is going to start making more appearances now because the ego is really the conflict that goes on in your head, and we need using it in a positive way in 2019 and beyond, we need to get over this and go to that higher frequency. Yes, that one up there. You're whole and perfect, strong and powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. Don't make fun of me. And blessings to you, my friend. You ready? Namaste.